Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. I'm Adam Simmons here at the 2024 GEOINT Symposium in Orlando, Florida. And once again, I have the pleasure with talking with Scott Herman. Another GEOINT, another year, and another fun technology, conference, right? So,
Yeah.
Scott, quickly, I know we've had you on before, but give us a quick backdrop of what you've been up to in the last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see you again, Adam, and it's great to be back at GEOINT. I really enjoy this show a lot. We joke it's a lot like a high school reunion,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You see so many people, you have so many serendipitous meetings in the hallways. So this is one of my favorite events of the year. And glad to get a chance to talk with you a little bit.
Awesome.
So the past year has been pretty interesting, right? I returned to Maxar. I'm the chief product officer there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it, and it's really exciting. I'm very jazzed, very enthusiastic about what we're trying to do. As you know, Maxar has really been a standard bearer within the geospatial industry for a long, long time. But at the same time, there's a lot happening in our industry. There's new technologies, there's new solutions, there's new tradecraft. And at Maxar, what we want to do is make sure that while we continue to provide the absolute best-in-class satellite imagery, remote sensing data, and analytics, that we're also thinking about how is the world changing, how do we adapt to that as a company, and how do we offer solutions that matter for our international, U.S. government, and commercial customers.
Great. And I will go immediately dive into some really interesting things here.
Yeah.
You had a really, really successful event just happen here a couple of days ago, right? Can you
We
tell us a
did.
little bit more about that?
I sure can. So, after a long wait, our next generation satellite constellation, it's called WorldView Legion. The first two satellites went up last week out of Vandenberg. We're really excited about that. The Legion constellation for us is the next generation technology. It has a different concept of operations. It's going to triple our 30 centimeter capacity. So these will be the most exquisite commercial birds out there, and then we're going to massively increase the capacity.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. That's a lot of really great terms there that you just said.
Yeah.
What does that mean in detail for capabilities? We're talking about what resolution we're talking about, what's the revisit rate, and what are we looking for? Is it just regular UO, or are you diving into a little bit more on the IR side too?
Yeah, so I'll talk about that. And I know that when we talk about satellites, people tend to kind of dive right into the specifications. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. I'm actually much more interested in the missions that we can now accomplish by having this constellation.
Oh, that's fair. Love to hear about the expected use cases too.
The constellation itself, right now we're looking at putting up 6 satellites this year. We put them up 2 at a time. We put the first 2 up last week out of Vandenberg. The first 2 will go into sun-sync polar orbit. They will collect at 30 centimeter resolution. We'll be putting 4 more up this year into mid-inclination orbit. And we'll talk about the difference of what those orbits mean, but basically it increases our revisit. It allows us to collect dawn to dusk, and it opens up a whole bunch of different use cases. It's really this transition from foundation mapping into global monitoring, right? And that's a really important transition, and we're designing the constellation to do that. These are big satellites. These are not small sats. These are satellites that have been built over many years in kind of big engineering, high bays, bunny suits, clean rooms. These are Battlestar Galacticas of the industry, right?
Okay, so we're not talking really low orbit here, like that.
They're low Earth orbit, but they're not small sats.
Okay.
Right. These are exquisite assets, is the way to think about it, right? Very high volume, lots of redundancy, super resolution. They're really designed for these missions of kind of paint the Earth, be able to collect massive amounts of capacity. We're talking 6 million square kilometers a day with the constellation, which is pretty much more than anybody collecting at this resolution. There's a role for small sats. We care about small sats. In fact, we use a lot of small sat data, but the Legion constellation is really the next generation of the commercial exquisite satellites that follows the tradition of what we've done with the legacy WorldView satellites, which continue in operation. That's really important to understand too. Legion is a new generation of satellites, but we continue to use the satellites that everybody depends on us for now. So massive capacity, massive capability, exquisite data quality. Now, data quality isn't just resolution. It's geospatial accuracy, it's spectral, normalcy, right? All these things that really matter for people that need to exploit that imagery, do analysis of it, do automated analytics through machine learning and AI. build a trusted foundation, and then use this imagery for kind of the transparency and understanding of what's happening in the world. So
Okay.
we're really, really excited about this constellation. It builds on our legacy of the WorldView constellation that people have known and loved for almost 20 years now with Maxar.
Well, I think it also plays to what Maxar is doing great with what you've been doing with partnerships too. So
Yeah.
you had also a recent announcement partnering with Umbra Space,
Right.
and I think that introduces some interesting products down the road as it complements Legion, right?
It does, and the reason we really like Umbra, right, which is synthetic aperture radar, the reason we really like that is it broadens our capability, not just in terms of monitoring capacity, but 24/7, all-weather, nighttime collection, right? We love our electro-optical satellites, but they're pretty much daylight collectors. There's a little bit you can do at nighttime, right? We do have nighttime collection, but SAR gives us that capability to punch through clouds.
All right.
So it increases our observational cadence in general. It gives us some additional capabilities to watch the world at times that may not be optimal for our electro-optical satellites. And then probably most importantly, the reason we really like this Umbra relationship is it gives us access to new solutions and new products where we fuse electro-optical and SAR data to get a better understanding of what's happening on the ground. Wide area surveillance, site monitoring, facility and activity monitoring, even things like using SAR data to make our foundation map products better, right? Or to make better 3D products, right? So we have a strategic relationship with Umbra. We have integrated them into our tasking systems, into our production systems. We're exploiting their data in terms of our products. It's a very, very tight relationship. Maxar is becoming more and more a multi-source company. Our own satellites provide a premium source of fuel for our products engine, but it's not the only source. And so we'll be developing more relationships like our relationship with Umbra across other phenomenologies. One of the things that's really happening right now, especially in the small sat community, is you're seeing the growth of hyperspectral and thermal and other exotics, methane detection, 3D detection through LiDAR or radar technology, right? Each of those things fits in the ecosystem, but if we can come to our customers with a common way to get access to that information, to task that information, to have fused data products and solutions based on multi-source, we think that's really a much bigger solution set for Maxar than simply having our own satellites.
Oh, absolutely.
Our own satellites continue to be the flagship, right? They're the capital ships of our Navy, but now we have a lot more supporting ships that allow us to have a much broader range of solutions.
Now, focused on your role as Chief Product Officer,
Yeah.
and you walking around in this floor with amazing new innovations in
Yeah.
technology, I imagine you have some really interesting ideas, nothing set in stone, about
Yeah.
how you like to innovate Maxar over the next 2 to 5 years. Can you maybe talk about, nothing set in stone, but what are
Yeah.
your hopes to change in your new role here?
Well, I think in general, part of what we're looking at is how do we provide more value to our customers
Okay.
by being closer to their mission, being closer to their pain points. Maxar traditionally has been what's called a commercial data provider, a provider of raw materials, right? Pixels by the pound, tons and tons of imagery, the best product out there. But then someone else kind of takes it and tries to figure out what to do with it. What we're doing now is we're really moving up that value stack, getting closer to the end customers in terms of providing them mission solutions, not just dumping data on their desk and saying, you do it.
Okay.
So examples of that, I mentioned site monitoring, right? How do we do monitoring globally for different use cases? How do we support mission planning and rehearsal, modeling and simulation? How do we do things like, space situational awareness and space domain awareness? How do we look at things like what do next generation maps look like, right? There's been this traditional kind of difference between foundation reference data and then what's happening currently, right? What's your daily take? What's coming off the birds every day? We look at next generation maps as being much more dynamic, right? They're updated much more often. They have a 4D aspect to them. It's not only the world in 3D, but the world in 4D. So what is the temporal stack and currency, and how do we think about the temporal aspect of the data? We look at it as being extremely geo-precise, including the ability to bring in other people's data and make it more geo-precise so that everything kind of lines up correctly. And then doing mapping on a much more thematic level, right? It's not just, here's a pile of foundation reference information, but how is the customer trying to use that? And how do we drive the thematics of mapping and analytics and understanding into that? The big goal across all these solutions is really moving much more into the realm of what's called sense making, right? Again, it's not observations, it's insight and understanding of what's happening on the ground or even what's happening in space.
Right.
Being able to understand what pattern of life is, understanding what anomalies to that pattern of life are, understanding potential courses of action that a customer or a user can take with this information. So very, very much, if I could sum up our solutions in general, right, they're all about moving closer to this idea of solving a customer's pain point through sense making, understanding, context, and insight, not just, here's a bunch of observations, you figure it out. That's kind of the common theme across all of our solutions.
Excellent. Well, as we wrap up, I have two last questions for you. The first is there any any final message you'd like to relay to our audience about the direction that Maxar is heading, and or what you're excited about with your role at Maxar moving forward?
Well, obviously Legion is a huge thing for us, right?
Yeah.
That ability to kind of plug in that premium fuel is it's a blast off moment for us, right? It's really, really exciting. We're committed to 6 satellites this year. We're already signed up for 2 more, WorldView Legion 7 and 8. So that might be news for your audience, but we are signed up for 7 and 8. And then we'll kind of see where it goes. And then we're also thinking about what happens after Legion. What's the generation look like after that? What's the mission requirements? What's the design? What's the time frame for doing that? So that's obviously very exciting. But the thing I'm most excited about is the solutions build out, right? What can we do? Space is cool, the satellites are cool, technology is cool, but I've always really been focused on the so what, like what can I do with that information? What problems can I solve? How do I make the world a better place? How do we become a even more successful company by having these solutions? And that's really what wakes me up every day.
Oh, excellent. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the insights this year, getting an update. And once again, congratulations on both Legion and your new role at Maxar. That's incredible.
Great. Thanks a lot, Adam. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. This is Adam Sims with Project Geospatial. We'll talk to everybody next time.